Thank you, Maria, and hello, everybody, and good evening. I'm calling out to you from my home office in Hilden, which is a nice little town in Germany. And today we're even having good weather, despite the evening related lighting conditions. So, I hope you've brought a little bit of time so we can, get through the agenda I have prepared for you for this webinar. Unlock developer self-service and boost your productivity. So what's on the menu for the next 30 minutes? And then obviously some minutes more for Q&A. We have a section where we first get on the same page what we're even talking about. That would be good for a common understanding, right? Then we'll take a look at some reference architectures and also at the dominant developer use cases before I demo to you how it would look like if you would have one of those reference architectures in place and decided to build a self-service enablement platform, an internal developer platform with some components that we deliver. Yeah, and at the end, I'll take a quick look at the question MVP or MLP before we trundle off to the Q&A. So, off to the races. What even is self-service? Let's take a look at that first. So, is self-service when you are able to say, hey, I want to have a chicken sandwich, and I can get all of the little parts here and arrange them exactly in the way that I want them, so I can, in the end, have my chicken sandwich. Is that self-service? To a certain degree, probably yes. But what looks way more like self-service is probably this here. So commercial off the shelf. A nice and stocked shelf where you can just pick whatever you want and go ahead and just eat it. That is also self-service, right? Or are we talking about self-service when we are looking at something like this? And I hope that Subways isn't angry at me for me using their delicious sandwiches as an analogy what self-service might be if you're getting best of both worlds. So in this case, you have all of the little components down here still, but you also have the prepackaged ideas of how your sandwich could look like up here. And you even have to build your own option where you basically decide what goes on your sandwich or not. So you're able to either ask for an exact combination of ingredients, how you like it. You're able to modify a little bit one of the standards, or you can just order a standard. And in the end, you will get handed that sandwich by somebody with a smile and you can eat it. Well, is that self-service? Kind of not. Kind of not, because there needs to be somebody preparing your sandwich. But kind of yes, because in the end, you are still placing the order and eating the sandwich. So, most probably, you would like to have your platform like this. But how to achieve that without somebody behind the counter going crazy? Let's take a look. So, I hope we can all agree that building software should be more commoditized, at least on the infrastructure part, right? If you think about what developers are doing, they are doing exactly this for building software. They look for frameworks, they look for components, they look for open source modules and bring them into their projects. So they don't need to reinvent the wheel. They don't need to build what somebody else has already prepared, vetted, tested, and found to be rock solid. Yeah, so to be fast and effective, they use those commoditized components that somebody else is providing for them. And probably infrastructure should be a little bit more like this as well. And platforms should be built by the Marines. So why am I saying this? Not to get some martial imagery right in here, but referring to the motto Semper Fi, which probably translates a little bit also to never leave anyone behind. So that's how a platform should be, right? It should be able to care for all kinds of stakeholders. Nobody should be left behind. So the commercial of the shelf analogy, where you don't know how to make a sandwich, but you would like to eat a delicious one and you can just get it and eat it. That's exactly what some citizen developers or more junior engineers pretty much need. Yeah, and your platform should be able to care for that. But at the same time, nobody is stopping the Marines to storm the hill, right? So if you have a group of people who are on the bleeding edge because they define what defines your company in the market, then there should be no platform stopping them. Yeah, so they should be able to either reason about the ingredients on their own, or even if that is still too much constraining, they should be able to go ahead and do it on their own. So you're probably never building a platform for 100% of the people, but self-service should be able to care for at least 80% of all of your use cases and should leave no one behind. So how do you get that? From our perspective, it's starting with a sensible, a respectful abstraction. And we are relying on an open source workload specification called SCORE for that. So SCORE has been donated to the CNCF lately, and we are waiting for the approval because we think this belongs in the hands of more people, so we can evolve that to the better for the whole discipline of platform engineering. All right, so SCORE allows you to specify in an abstract way what you need. Then we have the reason why I'm probably wearing this shirt here and why I'm making this standpoint here, the platform orchestrator. This is the main part of our portfolio, and it is basically the person behind the counter, which is making the sandwich to your liking. But because you don't want to drive a real person mad with handling all of those repetitive tasks and tickets, the orchestrator is a robot. Yeah. So let's see how we get this sandwich making machine into or off to the races. Right? And in the end, because you have that robot which is able to always hand out the same sandwiches from the same recipes, that allows you to standardize. Right? Probably you don't need to have 200 varieties of a chicken sandwich or 200 varieties of a PostgreSDB on stock or on the menu. You probably need 1 to 5. So the more standard searching or less needful developers will just grab one of those. And if you have people who need to storm the hill, they can still go ahead and define more clearly what they need. And because just working with the UI is not good for developers, but also just working with a CLI and an API is not good for everybody else, and we're leaving no one behind. You should have a UI layer, a portal, which allows you to visualize what you actually have. That's great for explorative sessions. It's great for a lot of stakeholders, and it's definitely a component your platform should have. All right, so let's take a clearer look at what SCORE is before I show you how to use SCORE out in the wild. So as I said, it's a workload specification. So I'm reasoning about a product service here, and I'm reasoning about what this product service needs to be able to run inside of runtime estate. I need a DB of type Postgres. I need an S3 bucket so I can store some blobs, and I need a DNS because I hate typing IP addresses. And in this case, I'm also hooking the path/products up to the DNS with my route. And I'm also feeding back. Here I can see resources DB username. So resources DB, that's here. The username of the Postgres database, the password, host, and port. I'm feeding all of that back to my application in a configuration in a variable named dbcon, so that the Postgres database I'm asking for is actually hooked up and configured to be used with my application. So this is a very basic notation, I would say. Every developer should be able to learn this in 10 to 20 minutes. Even the more complex use cases. If you don't trust me, take a look at score.dev or just shoot me a line and I'll be happy to demonstrate score in more depth for you. And yeah, you will see that this is totally possible and that it allows developers to ask on exactly the level that they care for infrastructure. Because if I wear my developer hat, I always say, like, I want to have a database so my application doesn't have amnesia, but that's literally where I stop caring for it. I don't even want to reason about the size. Just give me the standard one and we see if that fits. Don't ask me how to do anything else, right? Probably the compliance guys know better what the SLAs need to be for data loss prevention and whatever. And hopefully all of that is already baked into the definition of how a Postgres database looks like in my company, so I don't need to care about it. I can just use it. Yeah, and Score allows me to have that abstract ask. Along comes the orchestrator who takes that abstract ask, and then we have the platform engineer as the second player on the field, who's actually configuring the orchestrator with a rule set. And those rules always apply in a certain context. In this case, CI has taken over the score file, and what I have built, turned that into a container image, and is passing on the score file to the platform orchestrator and delivering the context. Hey, I have not only created this image, but somebody also set a tag on this revision in the source code management, which says it's the next release candidate. So please promote this to the staging system. And the orchestrator takes note of that. Okay, staging, here we go. So it needs Postgres. So how should Postgres be actually configured in a staging environment? And the platform engineer has provided the idea of how that should be done already as a configuration to the orchestrator. So we are basically executing on a set of rules to find out how to match that abstract ask of the developer to a concrete implementation that the platform engineer deems fit in the company's context. Yeah, and there can be a lot of rules as well, like, hey, all of the workloads and staging, they should be observed by my observability system. So please inject the sidecards, configure the access without the developer needing to think about it or get it right. Because that's where developers, at least in the higher stages, usually fail. So now that I have created all of that, I can create my set of distinct configuration for the application, which links it up with the infrastructure correctly, and then deploy that somehow. In this case, we're trying to do a GitOps deployment flow, so we're committing this again as a recipe into a Git repository, and from there we let a GitOps operator take over for deployment. The orchestrator could also deploy directly if you fancied. Okay, so that all sounds great, but to be honest, if I want to set something up like this and I'm starting on nowhere, I need to figure out a lot of things. I need to get all of the integrations right, and it will take me quite some time before I can demonstrate to anyone how that looks in reality, end to end. And that's what convinces people, right? End to end. So how do I get my self-service demo for somebody relevant, like a customer, developer, up and running in the least amount of time possible? Take a look at our reference architectures. So if you want me to complete the picture, it would possibly look like this for AWS. So, Humanitec's reference architectures, platform engineering with rocket boots. Why rocket boots? Yeah, because everything you see here is something that you need. Yeah, so our reference architectures are the least common denominator of all of the platforming attempts that we have observed in the past. You can probably not do with that, because you probably need more components still to be part of your platform to care for all of your needs. But you can probably not do without everything that's on this page either. Right? So a great starting point, if you iterate on that and turn it into your platform, you can get to something that is battle hardened and production ready and making everyone happy with a delightful experience quite fast. That's the idea how it's meant to be played. And because architectures, if they live in PowerPoint like here, are always something that is not that well received, we have added a little bit extra on top, so to speak. So what you see here is what you can get. And let me quickly jump over to our homepage. Humanitec.com/reference architectures. It's the first choice. I tend to go there quite often, as it seems. So you can see that you can not only get them for all of the major cloud providers. Red Hat OpenShift is coming soon. Why coming soon? We have already put out the PowerPoint version and the white paper for it. What you can't yet do is click on this fork this repo button. So reference architecture is not only a fancy picture, it is a clear explanation of what all of the boxes on this picture mean, how they align to get structure into your world and your IDP. And it also is a repo, and that means it's completely terraformed. This is the AWS one. It starts with the main TF, and from there it goes off. And everything you see on the picture here is what you get when you run the Terraform in about 40 minutes. I can do it by now a little bit faster. I have actually done a run live on stream, which got me from literally nowhere up to a running version that was not only one cloud, but more than one, and a few extras with a demo in 2 hours lately. So I'm very confident if I can pack all of that into 2 hours, you will be able to do it on your own in 2 hours maximum, from zero to platform. And that's the great stuff about the reference architectures. Okay, so back to here. A little bit more of theory first before I show you the demo. Okay, so what you get here is a developer control plane, an interaction layer where you have everything that interacts or configures the platform. Yeah, you see score here as well. Change to the laser pointer, score here as well. You can also see Terraform, which is a configuration option for the orchestrator, or as infrastructure as code example. The orchestrator can deal with more IAC languages to actually create and talk to infrastructure in the end, but this is the one that we use in the reference architecture. You see CI here, Registry, the orchestrator who cares for all of the configuration and deployment orchestration. And we use our own deployment subsystem to actually get out to AWS and get stuff running. Yeah. I'm not going to talk a lot more about this apart from one thing, because this might or might not resemble your world. Cloud providers, obvious. I've shown you that we have one for the different cloud providers, but what else is important? The planes, they give you direction how things are in the world. The little boxes, the black ones, they give you capabilities. They are important. You don't want to lose them. The logos, feel free to switch them out. If something here does not resemble your world, iterate, change, go for it. Works. Okay, if you have that, then you have your first step done, because it will definitely enable you to demo how to solve the first 2 dominant developer use cases that we see out there. So what are those? Simply speaking, what developers want from platforms: easy onboarding 20 minutes max. If it's more, hey, I rather watch another YouTube tutorial on something that's relevant to me. No break in my workflow. Please let me use my IDE, yeah? Or let me use the terminal. Don't make me use crazy stuff, yeah? And I want to be autonomous and fast. Think self-service here, right? Or well, we say golden passes over cages. What is not so intuitive is what are the main use cases? So many people think that the fourth one here, so the least important, starting a new project or product and scaffolding a new workload, that's really important. No, it isn't, because it doesn't happen so often in my life if I wear my developer hat. I start a project once and then I probably build it and I maintain it for years to come. And that means I'm daily doing deployments, debugging, rolling back, rolling forward, observing, changing my configuration. Hopefully, I'm able to spin up PR environments, so pull request based environments, so I can isolate my changes from other developers. Probably I'm adding or removing resources, adding a database. Doesn't happen so often. It happens more often than creating a project, but not so often, to be honest, right? And then starting the project, one off for every project. So the least important. So let's take a look. Demo time. All right. I'm wearing my developer hat a lot today. So let's see. Okay. So I am going to change into my reference architecture number 35. So I tend to have a few more of them. And because of that, I'm using cloud native configuration technology here to prepare my environment so nothing can go on after can go wrong after this command. I'm using dir-env to pre-populate my environment, so all of my development tooling is pointing at the right instance, which means I can now just use Obra, which is talking to the orchestrator's API and finding out what this URL here is, because I cannot be asked to remember that on my own, right? So I'm talking to the API, opening that up in my browser. I'm in Backstage, which is a portal that is lending me this blue button here for the demo. So I can push create and I can choose a template. I can call that any way I like, but I like to call it JTest 101 101 for tonight. Let's push the create button and let's see where we go. Green check marks all over, which means I'm off to the races. And that has created a repository for me in GitHub. And that hosts all of the code that I need. A score YAML. This is a live one now, right? So inside and outside networking of my container. Image is set by the pipeline. This is a demo, so hello means world, obviously. And I'm asking for a DNS. Yeah, I still hate typing AP addresses. How's this coming together? By GitHub action, right? Initial commit, it's already running in the background. So I'm using GitHub's own CI capabilities. Oh, green checkmark, it's already done. It's a very simple example. Doesn't compile a lot, which means if I now hop over to, the microphone in the way of the keyboard, to the orchestrator, I already have my application JTest 101 over here. I have a development environment. Yeah, so why am I just having a development environment? Yeah, because this is a demo, right? In reality, you would probably have more environments here. You would have staging, you would have production. All of that would be prepared, yeah? But this is just a simple demo, and not having them allows me to actually create them and show you stuff. But in this case, if I go in here, I can see that my initial commit, the deployment has already been done. I can take a look into my workload. And I can see there is the DNS, and the DNS, this is the alias of the Elastic Load Balancer. We're using the Amazon version, right? And I can see the host. So the crazy URL that I definitely can't remember on this one neither. Okay, if I wait for a second, here we go. Pod info up and running. Let's go back to my repo here. So, and let me, my repo. Did I say my repo? I wanted to say my repo. I wanted to go here. So I want to show you two things at the same time because I'm a little short on time. I'm going to edit my score file here, and I'm going to ask for something. Yeah, I'm going to ask for ready the Redis. So I'm going to ask for Redis cache because I need to store some data. And I'm going to be my work self, and I'm going to create a new branch for this and start a pull request. Add cache. So now that I have done this, I can create this pull request. And what is happening here now is two things. First of all, I asked the orchestrator to create a Redis cache for me. And most probably it's going to do exactly that. And the second thing is I have started a pull request, which means if you think back to the presentation, the use cases, I'm actually doing one of my daily deployments, adding and removing a resource, and hopefully spinning up a PR environment all in one. So sorry for being tight on the time here and needing rocket shoes myself, but that's how it is. So that's running right here. It's running the build, and this is taking a little bit longer than last time. Why? Because if I go over to the orchestrator and I take a look at my application, I can see, yes, PR1. So the first pull request, PR1, a new environment of type development, which is currently being deployed. Yeah. And if I look in here, I can soon see, whoop, here we go, that the resource dependencies are being fulfilled. And here's ready to Redis. It's fulfilled by a Redis in cluster definition, which means it is actually just starting a Redis container. That's the reason why it's sensibly fast. And I can do that in a development environment, no problem, right? In production, I probably want something else. I want a different way to run my Redis cache. So that's great, right? This is definitely self-service. I have just asked for something off the shelf and I did get it. That's awesome. But how would it look like if I wanted to have something a little bit more custom? Yeah, let's take a look at how this one was fulfilled and why, as a developer, I will never lose the context, even if I'm in this world, which is a little bit abstracted away from the things. There's this little link here. If I push that and hop over here, I can see that ready to Redis cache is being fulfilled by this Redis in cluster resource definition. I'm now inside of the resource management. And this is essentially where the platform engineers have prepared how things play out. I can see the matching criteria. So resource class is default. Anything that ever asks for Redis is going to go here, if nothing more specific specified. And if I look at the configuration, I can see the template driver is used, which allows me to use the power of Go templating to write out custom resources into my deployment stream. In this case, I'm creating a deployment YAML, which is literally giving me a Redis container, which is running right next to my workload. All right, so if I wanted to have something that is a little bit more robust, I needed another resource definition. And I don't have a lot of them in here, but for Redis, I actually have two. So there is also prod Redis. It is using the Terraform driver. So what's happening here? It's not being used. And the reason for that is the matching criteria, resource class is still default, but environment type is prod. Remember, my environments were of type development. Yeah, so all I would need now is to have a change of context. Yeah? If the pipeline would say, okay, this is a deployment to production now, it would go to a prod environment, and then it would actually use this definition here to fulfill the Redis instead of the other one. And that's how the magic works. That's why the robot behind the counter is preparing exactly the right delicious chicken sandwich that I want, and not something else. Yeah. In this case, we're using this Terraform module. It's also stored in Git. And yeah, we are putting some variables in here. So we're not creating one instance. We are creating actually the right instance just for my application. Okay, I can't dive deeper into this in respect of the time, but I hope it gives you an idea that platform engineers can give the right degree of standardization here and the right choices for each of the contexts that developers want to live in. And what I haven't shown you is the possibilities for developers to chicken out, so to speak, of the chicken sandwich and demand something which is a little bit more specific. Yeah. But I'd be happy to show that to you in a personal demonstration. So let's merge this pull request back. I'm super admin here, so I can confirm my own merge request and delete the branch because I'm confident. This is not best practice, but once again, we're doing a demo here, right? Okay, over to the orchestrator. Whoa, somebody has deleted my environment. That's kind of good and kind of bad, right? Kind of good because it tidies up behind me. Yeah, so no resource usage waste. But it's also great that this leads to the fact that everything is happening as expected. So merge pull request number 1 from here happened in my development environment as well because I merged it back. And now if I look into my workload, I can see, hey, ready to Redis is now present here as well. So everything as it should be, everything as expected. And you can get all of that, all of those capabilities out of the box at your fingertips, ready to demo that to your developers and say, hey, what do you think about that? Is that something you would like to have to make your life more easy by just getting a reference architecture going? And also using the resource packs on the side. I haven't shown them to you. Go ahead. They are lying directly next to the reference architecture repositories, and the resource pack, as the name suggests, is a pack of resources for a specific cloud provider that you can use to directly interact with the most common resources without needing to set that up on your own. So you can actually demo to somebody and ask them if that is the right thing to have really quickly. Okay, so let's see where that takes us. Back to my slideshow. I've done the demo. So where we are now, MVP or MLP, and what does that even mean? So MVP is clear, right? Minimum viable product, or in our case, minimum viable platform. And what is an MLP? I would say it's a most lovable platform. And at any given time, hopefully, your attempt to build something is fulfilling both criteria at the same time. So, what do we try if we do something like this together with a prospect or somebody who's asking us for an idea on how to make their first attempt a little bit more easy? Because we have been doing so many of them. So we have created an opinionated framework how you can create your MVP in a very straightforward and clearly defined way. So usually we take 3 phases after the setup. So we do some discovery and planning, an initial platform setup, a workload setup. That's where you bring your team of pioneers. Yeah, right. No way to get around real users. And we actually end that in an end-to-end success demo and measurement of your success criteria. And usually we can close down that process if on the first iteration we stick to a minimum viable platform. Yeah, and right about somewhere between 14 days and 8 weeks. As usual, marketing tells me I should say 14 days. I'm brutally honest with you. It's somewhere between 14 days and 8 weeks, depending on the size of your company, depending on your aspiration of what a minimum viable platform should look like. But I am 100% confident that if you want to stick to our plan and yeah, do something with us together. We can land this together in the given time frame because we are doing that every month. Okay, so having said that, I guess that basically closes the loop. Yeah, I went with you from nowhere to a place of common understanding. What is self-service even? How would be the best option of self-service for a platform from our perspective, possibly from yours as well? How you can actually achieve that on a logical level, right? What do you need? You need an abstract ask on one side, and you need an automated component on the other that is able to act on that abstract ask. So you can delay the point in time where you need to choose how to actually fulfill the request to the right point, the deployment, or right before the serving of the sandwich. Yeah. And obviously, you need to have a robot because who likes making sandwiches all day? Right? You would rather spend your time dreaming up great new recipes than actually building sandwiches the whole day, right? So we have our sandwich making robot, the orchestrator, which allows you as the platform engineer to dream up new recipes, which are delicious and delightful as new capabilities of your platform towards your customers or developers. And that brings me right round to the part where I can ask you, hey, what are the parts that I haven't touched? What are the parts that I have left open where I have not been clear enough? So if we have questions in the chat or in the Q&A, I will answer them in a second. And yeah, feel free to go ahead and ask more. Yeah, I will just switch quickly from this setup here with the microphone to my headset because it's much more comfortable for me to answer while I'm wearing this thing and not trying to bite into the microphone. Can finally start gesturing without hitting that thing all of the time. So back to Maria for the moment while I change over to my headset and then we go to the Q&A. Can already say thank you very much and be right back.